Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Extra Point here on ESPN 1600. I am with you again, Roland Rainey, the host of The Extra Point. And as always, I'm joined with my fellow compadres, Robert Parker out of New Jersey, Jeremy out of Indiana, and Justice out of New York. Well, here we go, because the 49ers, the Miami Dolphins, and the Eagles have gotten everybody into a frenzy because the 49ers trade that just was pulled off is one that is extremely significant and has many impacts to it. So let's get after it. They have traded up to the number 3 spot. But when we look at what the Miami Dolphins have gotten out of this, they actually were sitting at 3 to 6 to 12, back up to 6. They were able to get a 2022 first round pick. They were also able to get a 12th round pick this year. And then with the Eagles trade in the mix, they actually traded the 6th pick to Miami for the 12th, along with a 2022 first rounder. That's a lot to unpack in all of that trade frenzy there. So I'm going to swing it out to Robert. Robert, what do you think about this?
Yeah, just like you said, Roland, it was definitely a haul, to give up for the San Francisco 49ers to move into that third spot. And I tell you what, everyone's wondering what they're moving into the third spot for. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it's going to be a quarterback. And I don't know if it's going to be a quarterback that's going to start day one or a quarterback that's going to sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo, but they're trading up to get a quarterback. That's the only, reason why a team would trade up in the number 3 spot was to get a quarterback.
I'd also have to say, with the amount of ammo that the 49ers used to get up to pick 3, it also tells you that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are very confident in the rest of their roster if they think they are truly one player away from a Super Bowl again. This was a team that was there 2 years ago when they lost to the Chiefs. If they think they are one great quarterback away, this is worth it. If they think they can get a franchise guy, that can lead them to the Super Bowl again, this is exactly worth it. Honestly, it reminds me of when the Chiefs traded up for Patrick Mahomes. I looked at that team and said, what's the one key piece that could really make this team great? And that was when Kansas City traded up to get Patrick Mahomes to sit behind Alex Smith for a year. They were very confident in that roster, and I feel like this is a very similar move for the 49ers.
Yeah, I kind of think, the Dolphins definitely got a haul for, the number 3 pick, but looking at what they got, 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick, to move up 9 spots, that's a pretty cheap price. I've seen a lot of teams pay a lot more just to move up 2 or 3 spots. So I think this was a pretty good deal for the 49ers as well as the Dolphins. I think they got a pretty good deal for that 3rd pick, but I think Jeremy makes a great point. Do they think they're one player, one great quarterback away from another Super Bowl run? It's an interesting question to put out there because they just lost a leader in their locker room and their defensive leader in Robert Saleh. This guy is a ball of energy. The players love him. Everyone loves playing for him. He's the energizer on that field. How is this defense going to look with one of their biggest leaders gone and a great coach in Robert Saleh? So, they have Nick Bosa. They definitely have some pieces on that defense, but they're definitely lacking in the cornerback and secondary department. It'll be interesting to see if they can hit on it in the draft. But, from the 49ers perspective, they got a great deal out of this. And the Dolphins, they loaded up on some picks. They are set up real nice for the future. I think it's a win-win for both teams.
So let's take the time to peel back the onion for each one of these teams a little bit, because you look at the 49ers and you go, wow, this is a pretty significant trade package for them. They really gambled. But yet, to Robert's point, if they're going to go after a franchise type quarterback to try to get them to the promised land, then, for such a gamble, why try to pursue a conservative style quarterback? So in that framework, who would they go after, Robert?
Well, just like you said, Roland, I definitely think they're going to go up and draft a quarterback. And to your point, the question is who? Could it be Mac Jones? Could it be Justin Fields? We're hearing names, thrown around in the media. But from what I'm hearing, everybody's out there saying that it might be Mac Jones because Kyle Shanahan likes that prototypical quarterback, kind of like a Matt Ryan, that you can kind of give him the information and he can kind of, read it quickly and digest it and just make the play. But I tell you what, I'm pretty skeptical if they draft Mac Jones. And the reason why is because if you draft Mac Jones, who's really a stationary pocket passer quarterback, he's going to have to be an all-time great, like a pocket passer quarterback. And those are like the Peyton Mannings, the Matt Ryans, the Tom Brady's of the world. However, if you go up there and you draft a Justin Fields or you get a Zach Wilson who can actually, move outside of the pocket, the ceiling is a little bit higher and they can, struggle a little bit because they have the element of the run. But if you go up there and you get Mac Jones and he struggles, he can't move the pocket and he can't do anything outside of the pocket. So therefore, you're pigeonholing yourself into a quarterback that can only do one thing.
Well, I think that's a little bit of a harsh take on Mac Jones. I mean, he was one heck of a football player this year for Alabama. He might not be the athlete that some of these other quarterbacks are, but the one thing that the quarterback position is judged on the most in the NFL's decision making. Mac Jones does not turn the ball over. That is the type of quarterback that Kyle Shanahan wants. He wants a guy who can come in, make the safe throws, and Mac Jones can make tough throws too. We've seen him make tough throws. Yeah, they're going to get tougher in the NFL. All throws get tougher when they get to the NFL. But I'm not going to write Mac Jones off as a huge reach at 3 when if he identifies him as a quarterback that fits his system. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo really didn't do anything special on their Super Bowl run, but he managed that offense to a T. What makes that offense run so well is their running game and their ability to pass off play action passing, 2 areas where Mac Jones has thrived at Alabama. So, I mean, I can see him being the perfect fit for the Kyle Shanahan offense. You say he's very much like Matt Ryan. Yeah, he might not have the ceiling of what a Justin Fields could be. Justin Fields could very take off like, Cam Newton did, when he kind of came to the league. He could be that type of a special talent. But, I mean, I think this is a good fit more than anything. And if they think so, I think it was worth it.
Yeah, that's what's a little bit concerning to me, Jeremy, just like you pointed out in regards to, the 49ers actually coming up to get Mac Jones. You said it's a perfect fit and you want him to kind of, just manage the game. If you go back to the Super Bowl where Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator against the Patriots, it really wasn't the quarterback position that he needed to win the game. They stopped running the ball, and actually them trying to drop back and pass actually caused them to lose the game. And that goes the same thing for that Kansas City and San Francisco Super Bowl. If they would have stuck with the running game, just like you mentioned, this is one thing that pretty much keeps the San Francisco 49ers afloat is that running game and that defense. So for you to, have that in consideration and to go up there and take Mac Jones at 3, I just don't think that's the piece that's just going to get you over the hump, because honestly, they could have won a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, and, they really could have won the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. They were one bad throw away from winning that game.
Yeah, I think this is a true, unknown who the 49ers are going to take at 3. After they made the trade, it came out they love Trey Lance. And then like a week later, it turns out their GM and Kyle Shanahan went down to Mac Jones's pro day. And then I think a few days after, Justin Fields' pro day came out and everyone's drooling over him. So it's kind of an unknown where the 49ers are going to go with this. But, I'm in 100% agreement with Robert. I think if they take Mac Jones at 3, it's a big reach, especially when you have a player of Justin Fields' caliber. This kid can do it all. He ran a 4.4 in the 40. He can run. He can throw. I think this idea that he can't read defense is way overblown. I think he's a phenomenal player. Matt Jones, he had a great year with great weapons, but he has limitations and he has some things in his game that Justin Fields just doesn't have. Justin Fields is the better overall player, and I think the number 3 pick should be Justin Fields easily.
Wow, I saw the look on Jeremy's face here. Jeremy, go ahead and chime in on that one.
I would really have to disagree with you that Justin Fields is the better overall player at this point in their careers. I couldn't disagree more with that statement than we did with that whole Pittsburgh doesn't have a complete roster thing earlier in the year thing. I mean, Mac Jones had an incredible year. He's worked with tons of great players. Yeah, he's had a great offensive line. But at the end of the day, he's got to make all the throws. I didn't see any game this year where Mac Jones looked overwhelmed, as where I saw Justin Fields struggle mightily against Indiana and Northwestern, had 2 very forgettable games against lesser competition than what Mac Jones saw this year. I think Mac Jones is much more ready to contribute right away in the NFL than Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields can be and will be a good quarterback. I think he would be the one to benefit the most from sitting a year rather than Mac Jones.
Well, hey, Justice, guess what? There's a lot of NFL coaches out there that are saying that Mac Jones potentially could be a 10-year starter in the NFL. So based on what Jeremy is saying, what's your counter argument to this?
Yeah, my counter argument is basically you give Justin Fields, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle. I bet he wins a national championship too. He has that type of season that Mac Jones had. Look, this is just my opinion. From diving into both players' tapes, I just see inconsistencies with Mac Jones. He had a phenomenal year. He was on pace for the Heisman, but I'm watching Justin Fields. Look what he did against Clemson. He didn't shrink in the big moment. He came up and he made a big play, and he had a big game. And he pulled off an upset against Trevor Lawrence and Clemson. So I've seen Justin Fields in big moments. I've seen Mac Jones in big moments. I'm not saying Mac Jones shrinks in big moments. I'm just saying there are little things on tape that I'm concerned about. And when I'm picking at 3, my next franchise quarterback, I'm picking a future superstar in Justin Fields.
Well, as we know in all of football, especially when you get the brainiacs like a Kyle Shanahan, it's all about their system and who's going to best fit their system to carry them forward. And I would say if they are going to move up to this 3rd spot to grab a quarterback, the odds are he's going to pick a traditional style quarterback to fit his system. And right now, that traditional style quarterback is probably going to be Mac Jones. Now, in the midst of all of this, if you keep peeling the onion back, we got Jimmy G. What's going to happen with Jimmy G now?
That's a good question, Roland. And I tell you what, Jimmy Garoppolo has a no trade clause. So I think, if he gets traded, it's going to be to a team where he wants to go. And I know the narrative surrounding, the San Francisco moving up to the number 3 pick. And, the narrative surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo, and if he stays in San Francisco, if he moves on, I know I'm hearing the New England Patriots out there talk about they might, be reunited with Jimmy Garoppolo. But I tell you what, they signed Cam Newton to a 1-year deal. I really don't think Cam Newton's going to be there after this year. So if the Patriots going to make a play for a long-term quarterback, I could definitely see them bringing Jimmy Garoppolo back or drafting a quarterback in this year's draft. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo stays in San Francisco because, they paid Jimmy Garoppolo to come over there and to play. The only thing that's been hurting Jimmy Garoppolo is that he hasn't been on the field that often because he's been suffering with the injuries. So I think if Jimmy Garoppolo can stay healthy, I think he's a good enough quarterback to lead San Francisco back to the Super Bowl. And I think he can win it. And, they could have actually pulled off that win against the Kansas City Chiefs that I always go back and harp on. But Kyle Shanahan kind of did it to himself again when he started just dropping back and throwing instead of running the ball, which was pretty much working in both Super Bowls, one with the offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons and the other one with the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers.
Ultimately, I think if Jimmy Garoppolo wants out of San Francisco, they will find a trade that makes it work for him. But Robert, you made my point before I could even say anything. He has been injured a bunch like the past few years, like just little nicks and bruises where he has not been able to get through his season. He barely played last year. I think that was another big reason that the 49ers felt like they had to trade up for a quarterback, just because if Garoppolo does go down again, it's time to start looking for the future. A third injury, in 3 years, that's problematic long term. So I think that played part into the trade. But I mean, of course, the 49ers came out and said, we're going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not going to give away their hand and saying, oh, yeah, we're going to trade him, because then all of a sudden teams are going to start lowballing for Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going to say they're going to hold on to him. They're going to see if they get a great offer. If they have a great offer, they easily could, take a team up on that. But like you said, I think Jimmy Garoppolo will actually be there because they want him to be the guy to groom whoever they're going to bring in this year.
So we're going to continue on this epic show to continue to peel this onion back, because right now there's a lot of tears out there with a lot of fans, but then there are some happy tears, because when you peel more of this onion, now you got the Miami Dolphins. So they turn around, trade their 12th, and then with a deal with the Eagles, end up moving back up to the 6th position. So there's a whole lot that they have gotten out of this deal. So if I'm looking at the Miami Dolphins, one, they definitely made some signals that they're committed to Tua. They want him to be the guy moving forward. However, boy, they get a high pick this year. They get 2 first rounders in 2022, right? And they get a pick in 2023. Oh my God, these guys are set up to move in the future. Now, before we started today's episode, Jeremy made a comment that he has some thoughts behind this Miami trade. I want to hear it. Jeremy, enlighten the audience. What's your take on Miami?
Yeah, it's a little bit of speculation. So like we said, with their initial first trade, they got 3 first rounders and a 3rd rounder next year. They end up trading back up to 6 with that 2022 first rounder, get back up to 6. So the Miami Dolphins, they have a lot of picks here. I think they could very easily use these picks to, one, maybe potentially go after Russell Wilson, a guy who might want to be out of Seattle. They have all of a sudden they have excess draft capital to maybe go get a Russell Wilson who does not appear to be happy in Seattle. That was the biggest surprise to me of this offseason, that Russell Wilson is not super happy in Seattle. Maybe it's being overblown a little bit, or maybe not. The other thing behind that I was going to say is, there is even more pressure on the Dolphins front office now to not screw these picks up, because we have seen teams in the past that have held multiple first-round picks, a.k.a. the Cleveland Browns, who have screwed them up. And it already sounds like Miami is not happy with last year's left tackle choice, Austin Jackson, out of USC. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Miami, too, to make sure that that they get these picks right over the next few years. Because, if you miss on these picks, that can kind of be a death sentence for a front office if you don't get players that can come the NFL, adjust, and be superstars. I mean, that's what you are drafting with these premier picks in the first, this year's first round pick, the first rounder they have in 2023, the extra 3rd rounder they have in 2022. There's just lots of picks here where you've got to make sure you got to hit on these guys, or all of a sudden the trade doesn't look that all out and good for.
Yeah, I think the Russell Wilson to Miami, that might be a little bit of an overstep right there. I think it's definitely a long shot.
Small overstep, right?
It's definitely a long shot. I get they've had problems, but I don't see Seattle trading him anytime soon. He's a franchise guy. He's probably a future Hall of Famer. I think we could all agree. But to Miami's point, acquiring their picks, they've done a great job doing that. I think what they're planning on doing is just rebuilding this roster, because not too long ago or a year ago, this was a depleted roster. They traded Laramie Tunzel, they traded Minka Fitzpatrick, they traded their entire roster basically. So there's still plenty of holes on this team. They need linebackers, they need safeties. They could use another guy across from Xavier Howard. Some offensive line help, maybe Sewell at 6 if he's there. They still have some pieces that they need to fill. Running back is still a question mark. So I think they're just, game planning to, like Jeremy said, to hopefully hit on some picks and fill out this roster.
With a major trade like this, what tends to happen, and you've already hit on this, these are make or break moments. So right now for the Miami Dolphins, this is a great opportunity to do something very significant for their organization. However, if I'm sitting in the front office, I am thinking, oh my God, in the next 2 to 3 years, we better get it right. Because if we don't, come 2024, we all are going to be out of jobs. So you have a lot of cachet in your hands, and you better freaking deliver on it, because if you don't, you definitely are going to be shown to the door.
Yeah, I think all you guys are right. I really think, the Dolphins right now is just stockpiling draft picks to kind of build around Tua. The narrative surrounding the Miami Dolphins last year was tank for Tua, and they actually did it. They traded away a lot of pieces, good pieces at that, to get Tua, and they finally got him. And I know he didn't have the season that a lot of people thought he was going to have. I mean, in my personal opinion, I would never have played Tua last year. I would have just kind of let him sit behind Fitzpatrick because he was coming off a serious injury. So I think, yes, he got the playing time. He got to see how, the game speed is on the, the NFL level. So right now, I think the Dolphins are just going to, put playmakers around them and build up that offensive line, because I think they're kind of okay on the defense side of ball. And, they have a defensive minded coach. So I think, he can kind of scheme players and scheme a little plays to kind of help out on the defense side of ball. But, on the offense side of ball, you got to have those playmakers that can win those one-on-one matchups. And I think that's what they're going to go for, moving forward. And don't be surprised if Devontae Smith ends up reunited with Tua.
So we're going to keep peeling this onion some more. So now let's go over to the Eagles. So the Eagles traded their 6th pick to Miami for the 12th pick, and of course a 2022 first rounder. Having said that, I think the same message could be said with the Eagles, that they've put their money into Jalen and saying, hey, you're going to be our guy moving forward. But with a 12th pick, what exactly can the Eagles do to help their organization out?
Well, I'd say the first thing is invest in that offensive line. If you are going to give Jalen Hurts an opportunity to be a franchise quarterback, you have got to protect him. Penei Sewell will probably be long gone by the time they pick, but a guy named Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech has a very bright future, I think, at left tackle. There's a guy you could go with there. I think Rashawn Slater will probably be gone by that point, but he would be a great pick to shore up that interior. Well, like you said, if they're invested in Hurts and they're going to give Hurts an opportunity, you got to keep him upright, because that's the one thing Carson Wentz was not the past few years. You stick him behind the similar offensive line that Carson Wentz had these past few years, Hurts will be done in the league in 4 years.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let out my frustration with the Eagles on this show right now. I'm gonna let that I'll save that for another.
Wow, is it that bad, Justice?
I definitely question some of their decisions, but going back to your question, Roland, what can they do at 12 to help them? I truly don't know. Maybe cross your fingers and hope Jalen Waddle's still there. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. Maybe a Greg Rousseau to put on that defensive line, depending on if he's there or not. Darius Slay could use some help. Maybe they could grab a Surtain, a Farley, but he's got injury history. Maybe a J.C. Horn, who had a fantastic pro day. If he's still there, who knows? So I think it's definitely up in the air what they're going to do at that 12th pick. But I read something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. They actually traded out of 6 because they thought Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith would be gone by 6, which is kind of weird to me and risky to me because one of those players will be there. I can guarantee that. And if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm pretty livid right now with that organization. I think they're rolling the dice with Jalen Hurts, and I think they rolled the dice thinking Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith wouldn't be there at 6. And, they're making some questionable moves right now. And it's going to be interesting what they do at 12 come April, the end of April.
So I'm kind of with you there, Justice. There is a lot of unknowns with the Eagles, but hey, what's new? There's a whole lot of things that they did last year in the off season. Immediately in the off season, they did a lot of questionable things. So who knows with the Eagles? So, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Extra Point here on ESPN Denver 1600, and we've deemed this episode peeling the onion back of this blockbuster trade between the 49ers, the Miami Dolphins, and the Eagles. And I think we all can look at the 49ers and say, hey, they are a huge winner. Who are they going to go after to get them over the hump? Is it going to be a Mac Jones? Is it going to be a Fields? Or could they take someone else? Is there going to be someone else up there who they can potentially take? I don't know. I think a lot of us don't know, but I think this is going to be one hell of a show to watch moving into the future. As always, I'm your host, Roland Rainey, joined with Robert, Jeremy, and Justice. Keep safe out there. Get your vaccination, and we will see you next week here on The Extra Point.